Everyone knows Han Solo, so hopefully he needs no introduction. But to celebrate the home release of Solo: A Star Wars Story, I thought it would be fun to explore the origins and development of the character from the mind of George Lucas into the version we saw on screen in 1977's Star Wars. One of the earliest Star Wars scripts Lucas wrote was Star Wars: The Rough Draft in 1974. In that version, Han Solo was described as a Urelian, which were large, slime-covered, green-skinned aliens with gills that were known to hunt and trap Wookiees on the planet Yavin. But Han wasn't a member of the Trappers, and he actually helped save a Wookiee named Chewbacca. He was also a member of the Jedi Bendu, a friend to General Kane Starkiller, and took part in the attack on the Imperial base at the end of the script. The character stayed largely the same through the official first draft of Star Wars, but in the second draft, also known as Adventures of the Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Whills Saga 1, The Star Wars, Han was turned into a flamboyant young space pirate. Han agrees to pilot Luke to the planet Organa Major for 1,000,000 credits so he could pay off some debts. The story beats are very similar to what we now know, with Han and Luke traveling to a planet that's been destroyed, stealing stormtrooper armor, and rescuing a prisoner before escaping. Han at first refuses to attack the Death Star, but has a change of heart. Moving on to 1975 and the third draft of the script, somewhat more simply known as The Star Wars from the Adventures of Luke Starkiller, Han is again pretty much the same as we know him. A human pilot with debts to pay who looks out for himself and Chewie and nobody else. There are some scenes that provide a little more context surrounding Jabba and the debts he owes, but for the most part it's what we see in the final version of the film. The rough and first drafts are what most people point to when looking at the early stages of Han's character, a green-skinned alien Jedi Bendu that's known the elder mentor character for some time. It's fun to see that Han saving Chewbacca from slavery was part of his story from the very beginning, and I also think it's funny how similar his original race of Urelian is to Corellian, but Lucas decided it would be better to have Han be human to develop more of a connection with the movie's main characters, and Chewie wound up taking the part of the alien sidekick. George wanted to define Solo in relation to Luke as they were both developed. Luke was meant to be the selfless, young idealist, and Han was the more selfish character. Lucas has said many times that he wished to explore themes of selfishness versus selflessness in a fantasy space story for the younger generation. The dark side and light side of the Force are mystical portrayals of that idea, but as early as the second draft of the script for Star Wars, Han Solo was meant to be the human personification of that theme. A selfish man who ultimately sees the light, pun intended, and comes back to help the friends he's made. And while we're talking about it, that's just one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. I get chills every time Han Solo comes back to the Death Star. But that brings us to the end of the evolution of Solo. It's not that long because outside of the rough and first drafts of the story, it sounds like George Lucas knew exactly the kind of character he wanted and the themes that he would explore with Han. By the way, if you want a fun read, you can check out the comic called The Star Wars, which I used a few times in this video. It's a comic based on the early drafts Lucas wrote, and it's cool to see what might have been. But that's it for today. If there are any other characters or topics in Star Wars you'd like to see the evolution of, let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.